Ulfberht swords were primarily made from high-carbon crucible steel, a material significantly more advanced than contemporary European iron. This composition resulted in a blade that was far superior in strength, flexibility, and durability. Typical Viking Age swords were often made from low-quality, pattern-welded iron, which was more brittle and prone to breaking. This contrast highlights a vast technological gap between standard weaponry and the Ulfberht blades. Authentic Ulfberht blades have an exceptionally low amount of impurities known as slag, which was a major problem in medieval European iron production. The removal of these impurities allowed for a more uniform and robust steel structure. Some high-quality Ulfberht swords contain a carbon content around 3 times higher than other swords of their time. This higher carbon concentration is what allowed for the exceptional hardness and edge retention of the blade. The technology required to create such pure high-carbon steel was not widely available in Europe until the Industrial Revolution, some 800 years later. This fact makes the existence and proliferation of Ulfberht swords a significant historical anomaly. Modern analysis suggests that certain Ulfberht blades contained up to 1.2% carbon, a level indicative of sophisticated steel production. Achieving this precise carbon level without modern instrumentation points to mastery of the crucible process. The crucible process used involved melting iron with carbon in a sealed container at very high temperatures, which allowed for impurities to be eliminated. This meticulous process created a homogeneous and high-quality material. Not all Ulfberht swords are of the same quality. Analysis shows a spectrum of steel and production methods among the discovered examples. This variation suggests that some may have been high-quality originals, while others were lower-quality imitations capitalizing on the name. Some swords bearing the inscription were crude forgeries made of inferior metal, often identifiable by misspellings of the name. The existence of these fakes proves the immense value and reputation of the genuine article in the medieval market. The advanced metallurgical knowledge required was far beyond the capabilities of typical Norse blacksmiths, who primarily worked with bog iron. This points to either the import of specialized materials or the presence of highly skilled, non-Norse craftsmen. The superior quality made Ulfberht swords lighter, stronger, and more flexible than other European weapons of the era. These characteristics provided their wielder with a distinct and formidable advantage in combat. Blades with the inscription were less likely to shatter upon impact compared to typical pattern-welded iron swords. This durability meant a warrior could rely on their weapon in sustained heavy fighting. The exceptional sharpness and edge retention allowed the swords to be highly effective against opponents wearing standard armor. This increased lethality made them a highly sought-after weapon. The ability to reach temperatures necessary for the crucible process, over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit or 1,600 degrees Celsius, was an incredible technological feat for the time. Such high heat allowed for the complete dissolution of carbon into the iron matrix. Some theories suggest that the specific alloy elements found in certain Ulfberht swords point to an origin in southern India, where high-quality wood steel was produced. This provides a potential geographical source for the raw material. The disappearance of this advanced steelmaking technique from Europe after the Viking Age is a significant historical mystery. The knowledge was seemingly lost until modern scientific methods rediscovered it centuries later. While some high-end Ulfberht blades were made of crucible steel, others still used the pattern welding technique for the core, but incorporated hardened cutting edges. This variety shows a transitional phase in steel production during the period. The use of crucible steel meant that the swords could be made with a consistent quality that was virtually impossible to achieve with traditional bloomery iron methods. This consistency in performance was a revolutionary advancement. The process of making Wootz crucible steel was a closely guarded secret in its regions of origin, which is why the knowledge did not widely proliferate in Europe. The limited access to this expertise made the Ulfberht swords exceptionally rare. The blades sometimes show fine geometric patterns on the reverse side, a common feature of this era of high-status weaponry. These intricate designs further emphasize the skilled craftsmanship involved in their creation. The steel used for the swords was likely imported as raw ingots from Central Asia or India, traveling via extensive trade networks like the Silk Road and Volga trade routes. This indicates that the Vikings were not isolated raiders, but savvy global traders. The raw material for the steel may have originated near Merv in modern-day Turkmenistan, or from regions in Persia and India where crucible steel production flourished. This wide geographic range highlights the vast connections of the era. Islamic coins found in Scandinavia provide concrete archaeological evidence of the extensive trade that linked the Viking world to the Middle East. These artifacts prove the flow of goods and currency across vast distances. The Volga trade route was particularly important for transporting Eastern goods, including potentially crucible steel, to Northern Europe from around 800 to 1100 AD. This timeline correlates perfectly with the period of Ulfberht sword production. The trade in high-quality materials suggests a complex network involving multiple cultures and regions working together for commerce. This challenges the traditional view of a fragmented and isolated medieval world. The steel was then likely worked into finished swords in the Frankish Empire, specifically the Rhineland region, where the name Ulfberht originated. This suggests a division of labor between material sourcing and expert craftsmanship. The name Ulfberht is a Frankish personal name, likely representing a master smith, a family, a guild, or even an early form of a trademark for a specific workshop. The consistent use of the name points to a recognizable brand of quality. The Frankish Empire had actually banned the export of weapons and iron to their northern enemies, the Vikings suggesting that the trade was a covert or highly valuable enterprise. This prohibition underscores the strategic importance of this technology. The high carbon content steel needed a meticulous process of heating and cooling, which was not within the grasp of Norse technology. This required the expertise of blacksmiths who understood the specific properties of the imported metal. The sword's presence in Scandinavia is often a result of trade, raids, or being brought back by Vikings who served in places like the Byzantine Varangian Guard. This shows multiple pathways for the swords to reach Northern Europe. Owning one of these superior blades was a huge status symbol, reserved for the elite warriors, chieftains, and the wealthiest Vikings. The swords were not for every free man, but rather a sign of immense wealth and power. The decline of silver output in the Abbasid Caliphate led to the decreased importance of the Volga trade route by the 11th century, which likely contributed to the decline of Ulfberht swords made from imported steel. The disruption of trade routes directly impacted the supply of raw materials. Some researchers suggest the knowledge of making these swords may have been acquired from prisoners of war from the Byzantine Empire. This provides an alternative to pure trade for the transfer of technological expertise. The swords have been found in a variety of contexts, including elite warrior graves and riverbeds, which help archaeologists map their distribution and importance. The burial practices indicate their high cultural value. The swords represent a fascinating intersection of innovation and global commerce during the Viking period. They are evidence of a highly interconnected medieval world with sophisticated trade systems. The Ulfberht inscription was usually inlaid with a contrasting metal like tin or copper wire, a skilled process that added to the sword's prestige and authenticity. This attention to detail marked the blade as a premium product. The design of the sword sits at a transitional point between the typical Viking Age sword and the later high medieval knightly sword. They represent an evolution in weapon design and metallurgy. The mystery of their origin and manufacture continues to captivate historians and metallurgists today. Scientific analysis is an ongoing effort to uncover the full story behind these legendary blades. Each discovery of an Ulfberht sword helps to piece together the complex puzzle of medieval technology, trade, and culture. They provide tangible evidence of capabilities previously thought impossible for the era. The swords highlight the Vikings' ability to adopt and integrate superior foreign technologies into their own martial culture. They were pragmatic in their pursuit of the best weaponry available. The geometric patterns often found on the reverse side of the blade were likely ornamental, adding to the sword's aesthetic and symbolic value. Beauty and function were clearly combined in these elite weapons. The raw material for the steel was called woots, a name for crucible steel originating from India and Persia. The global origin of the material is a key part of the Ulfberht story. The fact that modern blacksmiths struggle to recreate an Ulfberht sword using only period-accurate technology highlights just how advanced the original process was. The skill of the original smiths was exceptional. The Ulfberht swords offer a testament to the ingenuity of medieval craftsmen and the sophisticated organization of their workshops. The production required significant expertise and resources. The swords were part of a wider trade in high-quality items, including other goods made of crucible steel like armor and ornamental pieces. This shows a market for advanced metal goods beyond just swords. The sword's high value meant they were likely passed down through generations as cherished heirlooms. Their durability made this possible. The Ulfberht swords provided the Vikings with a decisive edge in battle, shaping the dynamics of conflict in their favor. This tactical advantage was priceless in a warrior society. The inscriptions themselves were a form of quality control, assuring the buyer of the blade's genuine origin and quality. This established an early form of reliable branding. The mystery surrounding the swords has led to many theories, including lost knowledge, secret monastic orders, or time travelers. The true story remains a captivating subject of historical debate. The swords remain some of the most iconic representations of the Viking Age's rich cultural and technological heritage. They serve as powerful symbols of a complex and fascinating era.